In today's video, we are working on a 2016 Jeep Renegade that has a clunking noise when shifting from drive to reverse and back from reverse to drive. Oh yeah, I can hear a clunk. Boom. This is a classic motor mount issue. In the previous video, we covered motor mount symptoms and how to locate bad motor mounts, so check it out if you haven't already. And today we are going to see what it takes to replace a motor mount. Primarily, we want to focus on the torque strut mount, but we're also going to replace the transmission mount. Front engine mount has been replaced fairly recently, so we're not going to worry about it. Now let's raise the vehicle and get underneath it. Next, we need to remove this cover. It is held by 5 10mm bolts. There is our mount right there. So there is a bolt right here and a bolt right there. Remove those two and this whole piece is going to come out. So this requires E20 external Torx or inverted Torx, but you can also use a regular 16mm socket. This is a 12 point, but I'm sure 6 point will also work. So can't fit it right there. Don't feel like removing the exhaust. I'm just going to try to fit a wrench on there. And the second one, I'm going to get a 16mm. Okay, so the problem we're going to run into when we remove this one right here is going to run into exhaust. I really wish this whole mount was flipped over so that the bolt was coming out on this side, because there is nothing here to stop it. I really don't feel like removing the exhaust. Fast forward 2 minutes and our mount is out. In order to remove that, what you're going to need to do is remove these two right here. That will let you move this exhaust that you can pry on in different ways. Bolt out, because this is a pretty big bolt, so it's going to run into it, but that's really the only way. You're just going to have to figure out a way to pry on these different ways and pull that out. After you get that, in order to pull the whole piece out of there, after you get the bolt out, you're going to have to, again, pry on the engine like that and just move it, and that will clear this mount. And you can see it's all ripped up right there. So when I'm going to install the new one, obviously I'm going to flip it over like that. And a few minutes later, we get this guy. So let's just make sure everything is the same, or the same width, the same length. This is a dealer part, so I would imagine it should be the same. Although, it looks like they're a little bit off as far as the hole goes. If we align the bottom holes, we're just a little bit off, but that's just gonna bring the engine, turn the engine a little bit, which is fine. So, like I said, instead of putting it this way and the bolt coming from this side, I'm just gonna flip it over, because there's nothing preventing me from putting it either way. Like that. One bolt is coming from here, and for the second bolt I'm going to use a pry bar to align it with. It aligns perfectly. There we go. 1, 2. Put those two 15mm in, and mount is replaced. For most of you Renegade owners, this should take care of the engine clunking, but if you also want to replace the transmission mount, here's how you do it. If you look right here, you can see one bolt of that mount. Since the mount is placed underneath the battery, let's go ahead and remove the battery. First, I'm removing this cover just to see what we're up against. But when it comes to disconnecting the battery, you should always disconnect the negative side first. Positive side has a 10mm nut holding down the clamp. And there is also a couple screws that have to be taken out with a Phillips screwdriver. Next, we have this strap holding down the battery with a 13mm nut. Using cordless impact with an extension to loosen it and a magnet to remove it. And there goes our strap. And now the battery is ready to come out. Next, let's pop this battery tray out of there. There's a little drain tube that we must remember to put back. And now we have access to the 3 bolts holding down this bracket. And now, in order to remove this bracket, we need to disconnect a few wiring harnesses from it. There is one right here, one right there, and we need to disconnect this computer. In order to disconnect these connectors, what you want to do is push right here on this tab. This is a release tab, and then just turn this lever out like that, and there we go. Same goes for the other one. Disconnect this windshield washer bottle. Push all these clips out. There's 3. You get the idea. And with a fair share of unclipping harnesses and wiggling this bracket, it finally comes out. Okay, so this is what it looks like. We have this guy right here. One, two, three, 4. Then right here there's a ground. It's a 10mm nut. Disconnected 2 connectors, and there is 1, 2, 3, and 4 harness brackets or plastic clips, whatever you want to call them. So this is what it looks like for your reference. Now this is what the transmission mount looks like. There's just 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. You can see 1, 2, 3. The other 2 right there. So let's figure out how to take it out of there. So next we're going to remove this bracket. There is a bolt right there, and there is another bolt coming from underneath. Right there. Perfect design. So first we're going to need to remove this 10mm bolt right here to move this fuse box out of the way. right there. So I broke it loose with a short handle 13mm ratcheting wrench, and now I'm just removing it by hand. All right, there it is. Now let's push this back. There is a bolt right there, and that should be all we need to remove to get this bracket out. Now obviously before we attempt to remove this mount, we need to jack up this part of the tranny to take the weight off of it. So when we jack up the tranny side, you can see how it's starting to move. We just need to bring it up just a little bit like that. That's enough. That way we just take the weight off of it, and we can start taking these three and those guys right there, 1, 2. So this mount is bolted on with E18, or you can use a 14mm socket. Let's see if my cordless impact is strong enough. Oh yeah, see that? Let me bring it up just a little more. You can see all of them are now spinning by hand. So there goes these three. 1, 2, and 3, they're all the same size. And now 2 more. So 2 more bolts. And this whole piece is coming out. Okay, so there's the old one, there's the new one. Whenever you replace parts, always make sure that everything gets switched over. This right here is a full 4mm Allen. So switch that over to your new mount. When we install a new mount, start the bolts by hand. Do not use an impact gun so you don't cross thread anything. In order to get all the bolt holes lined up, you may have to adjust the transmission height with the floor jack. Make sure to get all of the bolts started before you start tightening them up. Torque down all the bolts and remove the floor jack. And now we're ready to put everything back together. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with friends who have a Jeep Renegade. Links to the tools and products you saw in this video will be in the description. Make sure to give feedback in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, good luck, and take care.